so that we can be picked up. We unmuted. All right, now we're ready. So all we're going to do is informally, we can adjust this from the other part, but informally, we are here on the afternoon of March the 11th with John Amick, and we are very interested in what the Lord has been doing in his efforts to not only help support, but to promote more people becoming involved in Hands for God, Manos por Dios, which is in helping people rebuilding lives and rebuilding hope, all for the glory of God. And having John here is a real privilege. Ordinarily, when we do this type of interview, it is almost like a two-part recording. I'm in the studio portion and the other person is in another site. In this case, we're privileged to have John here with us. So, John, we just want to talk a little bit about not just how you became involved with Hands for God, but how your life has changed individually. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been through addiction. I've been on a real walk with God throughout my life. I had Lyme disease, where I thought I might die in the next 5 minutes multiple times, and I really got aware and I really listened to what God wanted me to do when I got in those situations. I guess some people call them foxhole prayers, when you get real attentive and things get real. So I've been through that multiple times in my life, and been quite a few other times in addiction and all. I prayed, God, if you just get me out of this one, what can I do for you? And when this situation presented itself, I knew there was this is what I needed to be doing. This is what I needed to do when I asked God, what do you want me to do for you? This what presented itself.
So when the opportunity arrived, you had already asked God, what is it that you want me to do? And the door opened so that you could help Michelle, Tyrone, and the Hands for God, Manos por Dios effort that was at that point probably involved in more than Puerto Rico. But now, have you been to any of the sites where they had been working?
No, but I personally rode with Mr. Perone, and we stopped and helped people. I believe pretty much every time I've rode with him, we've seen someone broke down or stopped and checked on someone. Either we helped them or we stopped to ask them if they needed help. But I'd say 50-50 most of the time we ended up helping them.
So that was pretty much local?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so in the Virginia Beach area, general vicinity, while he was here.
Yeah.
But yet, he's been, I don't know, 9 times or more to Puerto Rico, helping there. And he's been in several areas in the States where there have been disaster conditions by tornadoes and hurricanes and all types of storms. The most recent, from what I understood, was that he was in the Kentucky and I guess that tornado that a few months ago came through Oklahoma, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, it just devastated so many people. And he was, able to go there and offer help to these people who were, I mean, in so many ways, lost their homes, and they were in a devastated position. But I wasn't even aware that he was there. The next contact that I had was he was back in Puerto Rico.
He sent me pictures directly. I remember one of the pictures had a truck upside down in a tree. So, the devastation was just looked like a pile of matchsticks. What used to be houses.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure that you may have been aware of this, but one of the corporate donors gave I would say, small donation, but we tried to get them to participate in other areas. Is the company that makes the chainsaws and all of the equipment that's used, many of which are being used by Mamas Cordia, and that's a still machinery company, which their base, their headquarters is right in Virginia Beach, and they gave a donation sometime back, and we wanted to have them participate, not just monetarily, but to provide equipment that could be used by the disaster relief, people, and not only Mamas Purdue, but certainly Mamas Purdue. And of course, I don't know all of the different requests that were made, but it was made for them. And of course, I know I've seen videos where Michelle and helpers have used the equipment, and it's labeled, it's their brand still, right? Yes. And they've been up on roofs and they've been doing all kinds of work. So it's intriguing to see how some people are brought in to, let's say, supporting the ministry efforts, and not only supporting it, praying for it. I think that if people really pray for a particular effort, a support effort that is bringing hope to people, and the essence of this ministry is bringing Jesus to people by helping them in their situations, but the ultimate goal is that they are directed to Jesus. And I think that from that vantage point, many people who are perhaps, let's say they participate in church, and they may make donations in their church, but they don't really have an active participation in connecting with the people that have real need. And this gives them an opportunity to do that.
And to see exactly where their money's going.
So that makes a big difference.
I tell you, one time, the first time I gave $300, or was getting $100 increments, and he called me back and he told me he spent $10. And I said, on what? And he said, some 2x4s to make a handrail for a blind veteran. So, that was probably the best $10 I think I've ever sacrificed. So I think about that guy. A lot of times I wake up in the morning, I'm just thankful that I have sight. Instead of forgiving to see, because I would be rather be the one that can see and give the $10 rather than be the one that needs that handrail. And be in the situation that he's in.
And you know, the Lord has used Hands for God, Manos por Dios, to uh, help many of those who have just felt forgotten, especially some of the veterans that serve in, you know, many of our conflicts. And we just seem to, like I said, forget them. And they had tremendous needs. And we were blessed to be able to help a veteran receive a roof, you know, that we could participate in. We didn't go down there and actually do the work, but we helped to provide for the, you know, the materials and everything that needed to be done there. And to know that these people, and some of them seniors, when I say seniors, I'm saying my age, older, in their 80s, to be in a situation where they did not have running water. I'm not talking about just the roof, but they didn't have running water that they could utilize for toilets or anything like that. That for years after the hurricanes came through Puerto Rico, it was like that devastation seemed to be forgotten over a period. And then you see these individuals that are basically they're not asking for help. They're praying that God will send somebody. And then God does. And I think that one of the beautiful things about Manos por Dios is that it lets people actually see God's hands at work. He is using this ministry to touch lives. And I think we discussed recently a situation where Michael was directed, he felt that he was going to take a flight back from Puerto Rico to attend the funeral of a friend's family member.
It's actually one of our board members.
Right. But using that event, he was supposed to take a flight that would have been, I guess, departing San Juan at about 5:30. And so he arrived finally at the airport. And when he got there, before anything about getting the ticket or anything, the man that saw him coming to the ticket booth to buy the ticket or whatever said, you know, you're an angel. Now, I'm not saying that he saw something that others didn't. I'm just saying that that's what he identified. And he said, he began to relate this story that he had prayed. He was so despondent for whatever reason that if he was not given this sign that an angel didn't come to confirm or encourage, he was going to leave his job there at the airport, go home, and commit suicide. And I think his name was Jose. And in talking with Michael, at that point, it was no longer whether or not he was supposed to get on the airplane. That became a secondary aspect. God wanted him in that terminal to reach Jose. Yeah. And then he's got a picture that Jose, you know, he took where Jose's pointing up in recognition of God. And he's giving praise to God, and he's reading his Bible. He's essentially said, you know, I've got a new lease on life now. I'm living rather than take my life. And then I guess the correlation of the story is that the funeral for the board member's family member, I think it was his brother, had been held already the day before. So he wouldn't have made the funeral even if he did take the flight.
Correct.
So it was not about the destination as it was the journey. And he has learned that in several different trips. I can share some with you that, the Bahamas and all that part where he had to go. He was feeling like he had to be there tomorrow. And the Lord held him in Fort Lauderdale for probably 3 weeks or more. And he worked on this man's yacht, beautiful boat. And he did all the things that needed to be done to help outfit or get the boat ready and all this. And then when they got ready to make the trip to the Bahamas to take the supplies and everything there, the captain shows up and, they go. But had he been in his timing, such a hurry, he would have missed the opportunity to reach the man that brokered the yachts, to reach the people that, were touched during that whole process, where he was ministering to people everywhere in Fort Lauderdale as he was there. So, and we had this conversation. And I told him, I said, it is really not just about the destination, it's about the journey. And go ahead.
There was a person that he reached, a lady that had needed to get to her kidney dialysis, and there was trees in her driveway and she couldn't get her car out. And he stopped and cleared the driveway with the chainsaw so that she could make it to her kidney dialysis, and basically that saved her life.
So being able to do needed practical things have shown people that God really cares. He really cares about them.
I think about if I was on the other side, if I was in the Bahamas and looking at those pictures, the devastation, there's no way to get any supplies. And then here comes this boat rolling up with tons of supplies. Like, it's kind of like being in a mirage and you can see the water, you just can't reach it. You know it's coming, you just don't know when. And then all of a sudden, here it is. I mean, that's just a priceless gift. You can't put a price on it.
Right. So, let's say we take you just a little bit further now. When exactly did you get involved with Manos por Dios?
Well, I didn't really find out about it till I was at a meeting, and I forget what happened. I was low on gas, and I guess I ran out the house and forgot my wallet or something, and I asked Mr. Perone if he could give me a little gas money, and he did. And I had this jump box, and I know how he helped so many people. Whenever I get on the side of the road before, he would help me. So I gave him the jump box, and he didn't want it at first, and I said no. And the words he keeps reminding me, God told me you're going to need this, and he did, and I gave it to him. And I've lost count of how many people he's send me a picture of somebody else that he's giving a jump, where they don't even stop at stop signs there in Puerto Rico because they're afraid of getting carjacked. So when they're sitting there and they need a jump, they're just sweating bullets, and here he comes. And it was somewhere in the 70s the last time I heard that he had helped somebody who was number 70 something with that jump box.
Wow. So just one thing here, you had a need, and in your case it was immediate, like you needed some fuel for your truck or whatever, right? And so he helped you with that.
Yes.
Then not just that you paid for the fuel, but you invested by giving this jump box. And look how many people that's touched.
Yes, and the jump box is less than $70. So for 99 cents a jump, I'm sure each one of them people, it probably would have been 100 times value, you know. So to see so little go so far, I started donating $100, $100 increments, and then I started getting blessed. Then I figured, okay, I've been waiting to find the church to give the 10% to, so now that I've found it, I've been giving that 10%. Now here's a good little story. There was this customer. I did some work on their house, some structural work. They noticed on my card that I do roofing, so he said, "Would you please go up there and get the branches off and spray this chemical on it?" And I said, "Okay." Well, I wouldn't give him a price, and I said, "You just give me whatever." And he said, "No, no, you got to give me a price." So I said, "Okay, I want you to send it to my friend in Puerto Rico. Send it to Hands for God because they need support." So by willing to give that, it could have been, let's say $100 or something. But being I was willing to give it, he said, "Well, how about I send him $1,000 and I give you 500?" I was like, no, that's too much. One person shouldn't carry all the load. It should be everybody donating 10% of what they can. So this is how he got blessed. I'm figuring, he's spending $1,500 to get the roof free. This is too much. And I found 2 holes in his roof that were towards the bottom that he would have never seen. They would have caused major damage down the walls over time. So give me another $200. So for $1,700, he'd save probably $17,000 worth of damage. So
wow,
we all got blessed by giving. That's the whole point is we were all willing to give and we all got blessed.
Right.
And that's how God works.
Yeah. The scripture basically gives us that promise, give and it will be given to you. And it says, it's sort of like packaging. You give, and then it's going to be, men will be directed to give to you, not for just your use, but for, the use in the kingdom. And so it says, pressed down and shaken together shall men give unto your, uses the term bosom, but meaning you're holding. And it's so true. If we're willing to release it, God has so much more that he will not just replace, he will outgive anything that we would have expected. Tell us a little bit about, if you feel that you can, John, about your relationship with a dear fellow that I've known now for many years. We weren't that close, although I was a customer of his at that time. Bill Cummings, that has the Virginia Beach exterminating business, and your association with him, and how God is working this out now. And of course, we don't know the end result, but right now, how things are there.
Well, that is such a very intricate story. When I got a second DUI in 2011, in 2012, I started working with a guy in AA, and he was actually a son of a partner that Mr. Cummings had. Mr. Cummings had a partner years and years ago, which happened to be his dad. And when his dad retired, he took over the company.
I didn't know that.
And I helped him for I guess off and on for about 10 years. Before my point stopped where I could get a license, because I had a fast car and I had many speeding tickets, and I couldn't get a license until those points stopped. And I was working on a house across the water one day, and he drove over there and he said, "Hey, I got a house across the water." And come to find out, it was Mr. Cummings. And the come like this is my good friend's dad. Anyway, I've done some work on his house, and he started giving me, some of his customers to work on their house.
Mm-hmm.
And he was giving me quite a few of them. And whenever he needed help, we became like family. And then he started giving with me to the ministry.
Build it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And his son ended up passing away, and now I'm going with him on calls. And what did he say at the
In regards to your being able to take over the business?
Yeah.
I think that his plan, what is he, 86 or 87 now? Yeah. Okay. I think his plan is to turn the business over to you.
I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
And I mean, that's what I heard him say.
That's what I heard him say.
And I know that there may be some opposition, even maybe his family members, would, but God will work that out. But think about how you have been able to be a blessing to him through this time and even before this time. And now how God is using you, doing what you're doing to help provide needed funds, basically to buy materials. It's not paying for labor. It's not paying for a salary. It's not, none of those things exist. It's kind of hard for people to believe. We got organizations, John, that are receiving very large sums of money. And you and I discussed this before the interview. But the actual amount that arrives at the point of need is much, much less than what has been given, because it's all consumed by operational costs, salaries, various different marketing. The actual need gets very, very little. But in this case, knowing, number one, there's not a whole lot that is going there. We hope and pray that it increases, but the amount is used, and people find it very hard to believe that a homeless man can come to their country and not familiar with their language and not really aware, not saying he's not aware of the need, but not aware of where he is supposed to be. He just knows that he's supposed to be there. And then God directs him to different places where the need is there. The people have been praying and waiting, and now he comes. And he does the work, sometimes as helpers, but he does the work for nothing. And all that is being contributed goes to buy materials so that the work can be done. Where a lot of other organizations, people get their contributions, it gets eaten up in salaries and all the other things, and very little actually ends up in the materials that need to be helped. So it's an interesting change. And people come to realize God he's real. He hasn't forgotten it. And I think that's the one thing that has really stood out. I'm not saying that everything that's done is, we have our own faults, our own imperfections. We all do. But the motivation and the obligation or the obedience is so evident in Mama's Cordios. You hear testimony after testimony of people who were really in the last moments of their own life. And God sent Manos Cordias. I mean, I remember a situation where when I say he, at that point, there was nobody else that was in the area. It was just Michel Perron. And when he arrived, he was going to go to a particular point. And God said, no, I want you to go over here. And he even argued, I don't want to go there. I don't have a need to go there. I need to go to the other side of the island or whatever. He ends up at a beach, and he has surfed and he's done other things in the water, but he ends up at a beach, and there's a woman in the water, and she's going to drown herself. And he is there and takes her out of the water, and she confesses in Spanish, whatever, that she was going to kill herself. And this has not happened one or two times, it's happened several times. So it's almost like sometimes God is actually speaking. We're not necessarily listening. And in Michelle's case, there is a means of hearing, which is, I would hope and pray that more people had that type of alignment, with God. But he hears, whether it's audible or whether it is spoken very strongly in his spirit, but he knows this is what he's supposed to do. I mean, like you said, helping people just get a jump start for their automobile. How many times has he been used specifically drive a definite route along that route and arrive at a particular time at an exact point, and while he arrives, the need is already there. Somebody is stranded in their car, snowbound, you can't get out.
And that was another one. There was a lady, there was a blizzard in Carolina, and she was a nurse, and she was trying to get to the hospital to work, and she was broke down, and he came along with the jump box and got her going.
And he went all the way from Virginia Beach to Winston-Salem, just outside of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He did not know who he was to help, but he knew that he was there to help. And I just think about that for a moment. Number one, he could have said, "No, it's snowing, I'll go tomorrow," right?
Yeah.
But he drove by exact directions, so much on one particular route, change the route, go this direction, change the route and go this direction, and arrive at a particular point in mileage and a point in time. And he arrived at the exact time, and the need was there. It was like God knows all things, but he is looking for us to be willing and obedient to heed his direction. And some of us don't hear him as well. Doesn't mean he's not talking, but we don't hear him as well. Michel Perron is a rare individual that hears God.
And here's another part of that story of the Carolina trip. He was going into the storm before it hit. There was everybody evacuating. There was a whole line full of traffic, wall to wall, back to back. and then here's this other lane going into Carolina with nobody. You know, nobody's going into the storm but him. So he's going to the storm before it hit. Got himself positioned, I believe it was underneath the Burger King drive-through, so that right after the storm, he was able to be on the scene right then and there to start clearing the roads and all, so that, you know, emergency vehicles could run in.
So there have been many times, and it has been evident that these were disaster relief type conditions. I mean, it wasn't just drive across town to give somebody, you know, some lunch money or something. It's a very specific need. And in the case of the nurse, she needed to go to work so she could help other people that were in the hospital and needed to be able to get their medical treatment. And so it's just been a fascinating relationship. And one other thing that I wanted to allow us to touch on is the method of people being able to participate. Some people want to give of their finances, so they have the ability to donate directly to Manos por Dios, Hands for God, and there's a post office box. They can send the funds if they choose to do so. In Virginia Beach, I believe it's post office box 9934.
Yes, it is.
Which is Virginia Beach, Virginia 23450. So if anybody that is viewing this, or maybe have passed it along to a friend, family member, and they'd like to be able to participate and find out more about Manos por Dios and Hands for God, you can write directly to the Virginia Beach Post Office 9934 in Virginia Beach, Virginia 23450. But the other part is some people want to go, and or they feel that that's the way they can participate. They want to be assisting hands, and maybe it's carrying materials, or maybe it's, you know, providing tools, or whatever it is. God can reveal that need. They can participate. There's always a need for somebody to go. And there's the need for people to provide for materials. So in any of those facets, the last part of this is there are videos that are proof of what is taking place. You can find them on the YouTube channel for Hands for God, Manos por Dios, on YouTube. And I know that there are many testimonies, you know, that are listed there. So people can find out more. But my own personal relationship and involvement has been to participate. I haven't been able to go, but to participate in helping to provide the needed support. But the other aspect is to help make people aware. And by using these interviews, we hope that they generate interest. People begin to pray. As they pray for the ministry, God will show them what they need to do, just like He has done in your case. And, you know, John, for the last several minutes, we've been talking about the involvement in hands forgotten, manos perdidas. But in this process and the growth process that you have been able to experience yourself, where do you see God using you next?
You know, Jesus is the ultimate carpenter because it's not just one thing; it's so many things. How it all ties together. 10/1 last year on the 10th of October, I was brought on to be a board member. That morning, I decided I wasn't going to pick up another cigarette. I wasn't going to pick up another drink. I wasn't going to pick up another drug. Today is 3/11/22, and I have not thought about picking up any of those things.
Great
So
stuff.
it's just a miracle that I've been delivered. And I've had this phone number 724 Ruth for 14 years now, and I've always wanted to turn it into, I guess, like a homeless shelter for people that maybe have got DUI or something. They go to jail, when they get out, they've done lost their house or apartment or whatever. They're starting back on foot. Then they're in a situation where they just feel like they're just sitting on a bench and they don't know how to get out of it. And a lot of them die. I've had personal friends go through that situation and die because this place that I visioned is not built yet. So I'm trying to build this place called 724 Roof where people can just check in, go to work, get their stuff together. And I believe that's maybe why Bill's giving me that, it's trying to lead me to his business, because I can't just start people off on the roof, but I can start them off on the ground. Where they listen. And I can give them a hope and a future. And then we can train them to where they want to go on missions. Then they're trained to go on missions, and we can. I can see the big picture now of how we can help each other, and we can take care of so many of the problems of society today. And it's all about united we stand. And being divided, that's how the enemy takes us. But when we stand together and we work together, we can overcome all that.
So this, tell me, the 724 Roof, which is like the telephone identity, in the back of that is a planning for not just a shelter, but a workplace where you take homeless people and give them hope.
Yeah.
And not just a handout, but a hand up.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, because I've been in that situation. There's so many of them that they're on a waiting list, but a lot of them, they don't make it. They end up dying before they get some help.
Well, certainly a person that has experienced deliverance from, drugs and alcohol and tobacco, but even prior to that, had been experienced homelessness.
Oh yeah, I've lived in the woods. I've been out there with nothing.
So
Lyme disease was my first training when I was 29 years old. When I got Lyme disease, I had 2 company trucks in the driveway with 2 different major roofing companies, and both of them said, "You got to pick a company. You can't." I said, "Well, I'm not going to quit you. I'm not going to quit you." And that went on for about 3 weeks. I prayed to God to take the urge away of getting high, because I was just fighting the urge because I was being responsible. But when I acquired the Lyme disease, it made me feel like I was drunk, so I could not drive. And I gave the keys back, and I said, the hospital said I'm going to be in a criminal wheelchair dead, but I'm going to get on this bike and I'm not going to stop moving. And that's what I did. I had such a close walk with God. It was such an amazing, amazing experience. I've seen so much happen all in one day, just asking which direction next. And things that would never happen would just happen all day, every day. It was amazing. And, that grew my faith. And as that faith grows, it's easier and easier for me just to turn it over to God and say, "Look, it's no question."
Well, 2 things that come to mind as we close out this session is, one is the burdens are easier if we share them, we're supposed to share one another's burdens. But we're also supposed to count on the burden bearer, which is Christ himself. There are some burdens that are too much for us to carry alone. So he says, cast your cares upon me because I care for you. And when we rely on him through these situations, he carries us. It's like the footprints in the sand, that people are familiar with. There are points where it looks like there's only one set of prints. And what does he say? Those are the times that I carry you. Instead of us just walking together, I pick you up and carry you. The beautiful position that God teaches us how much he cares for us. Well, Manos por Dios, Hands for God, is a 501c3. It's for people that may be aware, it has tax exempt status. It meets the requirements of being able to provide a tax deductible receipt. Most people don't ask for it, but it's available. And the other thing is that, people want to participate in what God is really doing. They don't necessarily feel that they want to participate in what he's not doing. And this is an area, there are many, I'm sure, that can touch lives. But this one does touch lives. And it's expanded in the way that other people have been involved. And some for a limited amount of time, and some for maybe an extended period. But the effort continues. And as long as there are people like you, John, that are saying, God, what is it that you want me to do? And then you're obedient to do it. He can continue to provide for the needs of these people who ultimately come to recognize who Jesus Christ is. They know he's a living Lord. He's not just a religious figure in history. He's alive, and he's caring about them, and he's meeting their needs, and he's sending specially endowed people to help. And you're one of those people. And it's a privilege to be able to have this time with you. I hope that whoever's watching, listening, and if this were professionally done, and when I say that, if this were studio background and all of the things that are there, the essence of this is not to just see us. The essence is to see the message, find out what we can do, what you can do as you're listening. And feel free, you receive this either on YouTube or you receive it in another fashion, share it with friends, neighbors, others that want to get involved in really what God is doing now. He is actively pursuing people who are, in many ways, they feel they're forgotten. They feel nobody cares. And when they come to the point where they basically give up, God shows up. What if Manos por Dios didn't exist? How would he meet those needs? He would use somebody else. But thankfully, He uses this organization to touch their needs. So, Hands for God, Manos por Dios, rebuilding homes and rebuilding hope, pointing people to the reality of Jesus Christ. What a tremendous.
That's a priceless
call.
gift. That's a priceless gift.
So there's no money could replace it. Well, John, thank you so much for your not only your contribution, but your obedience in getting this message out to others. I hope that we're able to have others see and utilize what you've already shared and what so many other testimonies are. So to our viewing audience and listening audience, we would have people that would say, I want to do more. So if you're interested, you want to be able to find out more, you can go to the YouTube site and you'll see that there's a Facebook page that's also, I know, available. Manos por Dios, Hands for God, can be found if you just look for that link. And you can also send your contribution. You desire to do that. You want to write a check, whatever your choice may be, send it to Hands for God, Manos por Dios, Post Office Box 9934, Virginia Beach, Virginia 23450. That's Hands for God, Manos por Dios, P.O. Box 9934, Virginia Beach, Virginia 23450. For Michelle Perone, for John Amick, for others that have participated in this effort, we give God praise. We want to close with a moment of prayer, and then we will thank God for giving us this time together. Father, we just give you praise and thank you, Lord, that you choose to use us to be your hands and your feet. So appropriately, you've used Hands for God, the hands of those willing to bring not only repaired homes, but to rebuild the hope that is so needed. So they can realize God truly cares about them. They may feel lost and alone. They may feel that no one truly cares, but yet you do. And you send Hands for God, which we, those of us, whether it's connected in this ministry or in other efforts, we are truly your hands and your feet as your children here on this earth. And we thank you, Lord, that we have the opportunity to serve you. Continue to bless the efforts of Manos por Dios and Hands for God. Continue to bless John and his, not only his business efforts, but his following you daily, opening his course so that you direct his path. Thank you for that. And we give you praise, honor, and glory in Jesus' name.